cosy recording studio in the mountains of northern Umbria is a long way from the fear and unrest in Baghdad. But the attention of Father Jean-Marie Benjamin is firmly focused on Iraq.
Per vedere cose, se chi canta e chi dorme, se chi corre e chi piange.
A successful composer in France and a former high-level executive with UNICEF, Father Benjamin turned to the priesthood late in life. In Europe, he is well known for his campaign against the United States for its invasion of Iraq.
I am against the B-52, the Tomahawk, the war, the death and destruction. You imagine to bomb one people after 12 years of terrible embargo? You bomb again these people, and after they send the humanitarian organization, NGO, ooh, poor people, why should we have to help these people? That is hypocritical. That is hypocritical.
It was during the 90s, when he was making a film about the effects of international sanctions, that Father Benjamin struck up a friendship with Tariq Aziz, the only Christian member of Saddam's cabinet.
Whoever speaks about discrimination of minorities or people of different faith is a big liar. He's a liar.
Now, with Tariq Aziz, the former Deputy Prime Minister, languishing in a Baghdad prison as a suspected war criminal, their friendship is being put to the test.
If your friends are in prison, if your friend have a big problem, you go. This is not a comportment when you are a friend. When my friend, I defend my friend. If my friends are in danger and need my help, I try to do something. It's the same.
While his friend is in Baghdad, Father Benjamin works from his farmhouse overlooking the Italian town of Assisi.
Sei arrabbiato, Dudu?
In tribute to St. Francis, he's also taken on a large collection of pets, which he has named after his least favourite people.
You know the name of these people? The two dogs. The male name is Donald, and the female is Condoleezza, and the turkey name is George. George is a little bit aggressive, but it's okay. It's a nice family. George, you see, he answered.
But Father Benjamin now finds his friendship with Aziz has landed him in hot water. Father Benjamin's name is on a list, revealed last year, of those receiving kickbacks from Saddam Hussein's regime under the Oil for Food program. The scandal broke in spectacular fashion when United Nations investigators directly linked Benan Sevan, the man who actually ran the program, to corrupt dealings with Iraq.
Basically, the story is that at some point he contacted Iraqi officials and suggested an allocation of oil on behalf of a company called Ahmed. And there is records in Iraq that such a request was made and would be honored.
The AMEP oil company has been directly linked to Mr. Sevan and indirectly to former United Nations Secretary General Boutros Ghali. Boutros Ghali has not been cooperative with UN investigators, and they haven't yet determined his role in the affair, if any. But their judgment about Mr. Sevan's role was damning.
I think it is the fact that Mr. Sevan placed himself in a grave and continuing conflict of interest situation that violated explicit UN rules and violated the standards of integrity essential to a high-level international civil service.
The Oil for Food program was designed in the 90s by the UN to try and ameliorate the worst consequences of the sanction regime on Iraq. A certain amount of Iraqi oil would be allowed to be sold if the proceeds were used to buy food and medicine for Iraqis suffering under the sanctions. The allegation from Volcker's interim report is that some of those on the list received oil contracts under the Oil for Food scheme at a 10% discount, which they could then sell at market price, reaping millions in profit. What has made the list particularly intriguing is the appearance of the many friends and associates of Tariq Aziz, like Father Benjamin. The sheer diversity of the names on the list has also raised eyebrows. It includes former Indonesian President Megawati Sukarno Putri, members of the Russian government, and British MP George Galloway, who successfully sued for defamation in Britain over the allegation. Like George Galloway and others on the list, Father Benjamin denies he received any oil favours from Iraq.
So, how much oil did you receive from Tariq Aziz, from the Iraqi authorities?
Yes, this is a good question. A lot of oil. You know, I talked with some journalists recently. They asked me, you are on the list. Okay, it's better to be on the list of oil than on the list of Al-Qaeda, no? Because if somebody put my name in one list, what I can do, no? And I ask also, maybe if you can find where are my barrels of oil, please to inform me, because I would like to take the commission. You know, I spent a lot of money in these years. Now, it's absolutely unbelievable.
While he denies receiving any kickbacks from Iraq, Father Benjamin does admit that Tariq Aziz wanted to give him oil vouchers, but he wrote to his friend refusing the offer.
Et dans ma lettre, je dis, je ne peux pas accepter moralement rien de l'Irak, même si la commission, ça vient pas de l'Irak, d'une compagnie. Quand j'étais à Bagdad, j'ai demandé à Tariq Aziz, vous avez reçu ma lettre? Il m'a dit, yes, Father. Parce que je ne peux absolument rien accepter. Et c'est une question morale. You know, my father is absolutely legal. It's nothing illegal. Yes, I said, but I can't accept morally.
What I noticed was that there were many names on that list who were not traditional oil traders, and this raised serious questions. Why were they on the list?
Claude Hankes-Drielsam is a former Price Waterhouse International chairman and advisor to the Iraqi Governing Council. He has examined many of the documents and lists of oil kickbacks which were mysteriously obtained from deserted Iraqi ministries. He's convinced that they are genuine.
But I'm quite clear in my own mind, from the evidence I've seen, that those who appear on the list will be shown to have benefited in some form by the Saddam Hussein regime.
Father Benjamin claims that the source of the documents and the lists is the same group of Iraqi dissidents responsible for so much of the pre-war disinformation.
Le problème, c'est ça. Quand vous avez des personnes comme des personnalités de gouvernement qui ont menti à toute la communauté internationale, qui ont menti au Conseil de sécurité avec les armes de destruction de masse, qui ont fabriqué des faux documents. C'est difficile après de dire c'est vrai ou ce n'est pas vrai, it's true or it's not true.
What has raised doubts about the list is the involvement of Dr. Ahmed Chalabi in their compilation. He's the Iraqi dissident responsible for much of the false information about Saddam's weapons of mass destruction. But Claude Hankes-Drielsam, who examined the documents with forensic auditing experts, is convinced that they're not forged.
There's absolutely no question that that list was fabricated. I know how the list was compiled. We reviewed documents.
He's also convinced that Father Benjamin's name deserves to be there.
So why would Father Benjamin have been on the list?
Well, that is
nobody would be on the list unless the Iraqi government wanted to carry favour with those individuals and gave them oil at advantageous prices.
Is it not possible, though, that his name was used so that somebody else within the regime could have benefited?
Anything is possible. It's highly unlikely.
Why is it highly unlikely?
Because the purpose of the records was to understand exactly who had benefited. And because the regime wanted to be quite clear who they'd given the favours to.
Despite the UN investigation, the involvement of Dr. Chalabi in sourcing the documents has raised suspicions that the list is little more than political payback to damage those who supported Saddam's regime. But Hankes-Drielsam vehemently denies it.
I'm an advisor to the Governing Council and remain an advisor to Iraq. I've known Dr. Chalabi for many years and have a very high regard for him.
Okay, well, the suggestion will nevertheless be put that there is a political, a personal motivation for you to be so forthright about these accusations. So how would you respond to that?
There would be no reason for me to do so. On the contrary, why would I do something of that kind? I'm a professional. I used to chair the management committee of PricewaterhouseCoopers worldwide. I've seen in Baghdad, I saw in Baghdad what I believed to be something terrible that happened.
While the UN investigation proceeds, Father Benjamin is certain that it will exonerate him, and he's not backing away from his support for Tariq Aziz. Sunday Mass at Father Benjamin's private chapel always attracts a small crowd of nuns and nearby farmers. But today there are two special guests, a pair of sympathetic lawyers who've joined the campaign to help the imprisoned Tariq Aziz. Like Father Benjamin, they are worried about his treatment as a high-value detainee.
Dopo circa, ripeto, 2 anni di detenzione, Tariq Aziz ha avuto un solo contatto con l'avvocato iracheno, che è avvenuto lo scorso dicembre, e la possibilità di scrivere 3 volte alla propria famiglia.
It appears that Tariq Aziz has had a hard time of it in prison. He's lost a great deal of weight, and his lawyers feel he should be treated better, as he was one of the first to give himself up to the American forces.
Sono fuggiti tutti quelli del regime iracheno. Tariq Aziz non è fuggito. Tariq Aziz ha chiamato gli americani e gli ha detto: venite a prendermi. Ma lui si è consegnato e ha dichiarato che vuole essere rispettato come persona e non è mai fuggito alle sue responsabilità. Vuole rispondere per quello che ha fatto.
But the thirst for revenge from those now running Iraq makes the lawyers worry about the prospects for a fair trial for their client.
Criminalità dell'avversario battuto. Ecco, sotto questo punto di vista, siccome le 2 guerre che sono state combattute contro l'Iraq di Saddam Hussein sono state combattute contro il male assoluto, come dicevo prima, Tariq Aziz viene automaticamente spostato in questo novero, cioè nel novero dei malvagi, e quindi nella opinione comune delle persone che risentono di questo tipo di propaganda viene prima del processo, cioè con un pregiudizio, ritenuto colpevole.
In Assisi you have the population is 9,000 persons. But 7,000 persons are priests, friars, sisters. This is like the Vatican here.
It was here in Assisi just over 2 years ago that Father Benjamin last saw his friend. With the US invasion appearing imminent, Father Benjamin called on his Vatican contacts to organise a meeting in Rome between Tariq Aziz and the Pope, a last-ditch appeal for peace. Afterwards, Aziz came here to Assisi to pray for peace at the tomb of St. Francis.
So the tomb of St. Francis, this is the place that Tariq Aziz prayed with the friar of Assisi. We made the appeal for the peace in February 2003. Just in this place in front of St. Francisco.
As perhaps the best-known official of Saddam Hussein's regime, the case against Iraq's former Deputy Prime Minister has assumed a high profile in the search for justice in post-Saddam Iraq. 2 years after his arrest, no charges have been laid, but his lawyers have heard some of the allegations.
Le uniche cose che sino ad oggi si sanno è che Tariq Aziz è accusato di una serie di omicidi che ci sono stati nel partito Baas nel 1979, ma lui non aveva alcuna responsabilità di partito.
There's also been speculation about charges relating to the invasion of Kuwait, but Aziz claims that he opposed it, risking his life trying to persuade Saddam to ignore the advice of his war-hungry son Uday. And now Tariq Aziz is facing a fresh hurdle. As the evidence about the oil for food scam continues to mount, his role makes him a key witness.
He is certainly somebody who I believe will be questioned in depth and needs to be questioned in depth. But he was one of the key people in deciding who should receive what. And already we've seen, if there's reference in the Volcker report, that if they didn't feel that people were delivering, they started saying so and would complain.
In fact, the interrogation of Tariq Aziz about the oil for food program has already begun. In late February, in the presence of US and Iraqi investigators, United Nations officials were able to question Tariq Aziz. According to those present at the session, about 20 questions were put to Aziz about the involvement of certain Arab and foreign politicians in the oil for food scheme. The interrogation apparently ground to a halt when Tariq Aziz was questioned about his relationship with French President Jacques Chirac. Aziz refused to continue. With the scandal of the oil for food program swirling around those connected to Saddam's regime, Father Benjamin is unrepentant and says that the Vatican hierarchy supports his stand.
1 year ago, 1 year and a half, I received a letter of the Secretary of State at the name of the Pope. The Pope asked me to send you a cordiali auguri, heart wishes for everything you do for the Iraqi people. And for you and your collaborator, my benediction, etc., etc. You think the Pope wrote me and the Secretary of State and my bishop called me to congratulate, etc., if I am discredited? I don't think.
Jean-Marie Benjamin believes that there are many more embarrassing revelations to come about the secret deals and corruption that shrouded the former Iraqi regime. And he suspects that the upcoming trial of former leader Saddam Hussein will be the catalyst.
But if they make a process to Mr. Saddam Hussein, the public opinion in the world will are very surprised about some document, not only of food, but a lot of things before the war, before the Gulf War.
It's quite clear that most of the oil that left Iraq during the embargo had nothing to do with the oil for food program. Most of it was trucked out to Turkey and Jordan in violation of the international sanctions and with the full knowledge and, it appears, the blessing of the United States.
And one of the interesting things about this is in the case of Jordan and Turkey, in both cases the United States government was aware of it and provided a waiver from the provisions of law that said the United States could not provide aid to any country that is violating a UN sanction. That is a matter of public record.
Although the United Nations is unlikely to escape unscarred from the oil for food scandal, Father Benjamin believes the allegations against him will one day be proven to be totally false. He's also confident that his friend Tariq Aziz will soon be released from prison, possibly before Christmas. In the meantime, he's vowed to continue to speak out against the US-led military occupation.
I love the Iraqi people. I never can imagine, if you love somebody, to go to bomb to kill this person. You know, hundreds of thousands of dead people, and after these people are dead and liberated forever. Now,